I want to tell you about someone I'll call Marcus. Marcus was the kind of person who read 3 books a month, who could spot a logical fallacy in a dinner conversation, who prided himself on never being the one in the room who didn't understand what was happening. And then, over the course of about 18 months, a man he trusted completely, a mentor figure who had praised his intelligence repeatedly and privately, slowly redirected his career, isolated him from colleagues who didn't understand his potential, and used his work for the mentor's own advancement. And when it finally became undeniable, Marcus couldn't explain how he hadn't seen it. He wasn't naive, he wasn't uninformed. He was smart, and he got played. And today, we're going to talk about why that's not a contradiction. Most of us carry a quiet belief that intelligence is a kind of protection. If you read enough, think carefully enough, stay skeptical enough, you won't be fooled. And this belief is wrong, not slightly wrong, structurally wrong, because research in cognitive psychology has demonstrated that highly intelligent people possess the same cognitive architecture as everyone else, the same evolutionary shortcuts, the same emotional wiring, and in several specific ways, intelligence makes those vulnerabilities harder to see, because smart people are better at hiding them from themselves. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that 3 in 4 Americans overestimate their ability to distinguish false news from real news. And the people who were most overconfident about their ability to spot false information were significantly more likely to believe and share it, not because they were stupid, because they didn't think they needed to be careful. And Kahneman and Tversky documented decades ago that confidence systematically exceeds accuracy, that when subjects were 100% certain of an answer, they were still wrong 1 in 5 times. But when you're 100% certain, you don't check. Keith Stanovich of the University of Toronto found that the myside bias, the tendency to evaluate arguments based on whether they confirm what you already believe, shows virtually no correlation with intelligence, meaning highly intelligent people reason in self-serving ways at essentially the same rate as everyone else, but they do it more elegantly. Their post-hoc justifications are more sophisticated and more convincing both to others and to themselves. And a manipulator doesn't need to change your mind. They just need to give you a reason to believe what you already want to believe, and then your own intelligence does the rest. There are 6 cognitive levers that sophisticated manipulators pull. Confirmation bias, where they study your worldview and provide exactly the validation you've been looking for so you don't feel manipulated, you feel understood. Sunk cost, where they deliberately build your emotional and financial investment before revealing what they're really after, so that by the time you see clearly, leaving feels like losing everything. Authority bias, where expertise is constructed through titles, jargon, and confident delivery, and we hand over critical judgment to people who sound like they've earned it without verifying that they have. Social proof, where a community of believers is built first, so that by the time you arrive, you're surrounded by people who already trust. Scarcity and urgency, because time pressure is one of the most reliable ways to bypass deliberate thinking and force the faster, more error-prone system to decide. And emotional targeting, because research shows the brain prioritizes emotionally charged information, and manipulators speak directly to your nervous system rather than arguing with your intellect. Highly intelligent, socially isolated people are disproportionately targeted by sophisticated manipulation. Cults recruit from campuses. Investment frauds target people who are analytically capable but emotionally underconnected. And predatory mentors go after the person who is clearly talented but not yet validated. Because when someone arrives who seems to understand not just that you're smart, but specifically why, and tells you that the problem is the people around you who don't get it, that message hits somewhere the intellect cannot defend. Research in decision psychology consistently shows that most human decisions are made emotionally and rapidly, and that conscious reasoning arrives afterward to justify the conclusion already reached. Intelligent people are better at this process. They construct more elaborate, more internally consistent justifications. The argument feels like reasoning. It feels like they thought their way there. But a skilled manipulator doesn't need to win an argument. They need to engineer the emotional state and then hand you the intellectual framework, and your own mind closes the loop. The defenses are these. The deliberate pause, because urgency is almost always artificial, and any genuine opportunity that disappears because you took 24 hours to think probably wasn't what it was presented as. Naming the pressure out loud, because the act of naming what's happening activates the prefrontal cortex and pulls you out of the limbic response that manipulation targets. The external reality check, someone outside the situation with nothing at stake, and if you feel defensive about their skepticism, that defensiveness is information. And the exit cost audit, asking what you would have to give up to walk away right now. Because if the answer is enormous, that enormity is not evidence you should stay, it's evidence that someone has been building it deliberately. Being manipulated doesn't mean you were stupid. It means someone was strategic. It means they identified the exact cognitive architecture that makes you human and built something specific to fit that shape, and your intelligence was never the target, it was the cover. And the defense isn't becoming smarter, it's becoming honest about the ways your intelligence can be used against you, which is a very different thing.